INEOS have shown that they want to explore all avenues. They like to know all the data. I believe they have a 2-year time scale to show the Glazers that they're the right people to be in charge, because after 2 years, the Glazers have the option to sell and also force them to sell their shares. But I also am going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're working on multiple conversations and multiple deals at the same time, which did not seem like something Manchester United was capable of doing in the past. So if we sign him and he comes in for a medical and we have our old crew who basically think everything is hunky-dory, they don't know what the hell they're doing. You just can't take a risk and spend that kind of money for a guy. Hey, what's up everybody? Thanks for coming back to join me one more time for this short video that I wanted to get some things off of my chest and talk a little bit about INEOS and how I think things are going so far. Actually, I'm very impressed with what INEOS has been doing, and I'm starting to see the pattern here, or the cycle of INEOS and how they do business. And I want you to stay with me here and pay attention, and I think it's going to start to get your mind thinking differently than what maybe you've been thinking when you read all these like news exclusives or whatever that come out from Fabrizio Romano or David Ornstein or Plettigol or anybody else. And I want you to kind of see if you agree with me when I tell you my thoughts. And if you don't, leave it in the comments below. Thanks again for being with me. Let's get right into it. So yesterday, I was not having a good day. I was a little bit upset because a couple of things were getting on my nerves. And one of them being our presidential debate, which was a complete farce. And I'm not going to talk about it here. This isn't the place for that. But just know that that is just a big joke. And I can't believe how some of you people are watching who are not Americans, who are watching from abroad. You must think we're all idiots out here. And this is the best we can do with these two candidates. And yeah, man, it's pretty embarrassing what we're putting out there. But anyways, let's get back to football. So football-wise, things that have been concerning me. First of all, I wasn't, if you watched my last video, I wasn't so convinced on Ugarte, but I'm starting to come around on the whole Ugarte thing. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's not so bad to bring in a defensive midfielder that's going to basically destroy the other team's plays. Although he's not so good in starting the transitions, he's not so good with his passing and distribution. He's not the kind of player that's going to spray it around. And actually, interesting fact, because we're in the off season, I go into my Manchester United app and I start watching old games. And when I say old games, I mean old games. And you watch people like Roy Keane just win the ball back and then spray it out to the wingers with like a 30 or 40 yard pass that's just perfectly placed. And Ugarte is not going to be able to do that. Or even Michael Carrick with maybe not so long passes, but just, he gets the ball back and he just passes it right between the lines to a winger that's cutting in. And you just know Ugarte is not going to do that. And he's not capable of doing that. I don't think he is. It's just not a part of his game. His game is to win that ball back and then give it back to someone sideways or backwards, and then they can start the attack. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's an okay thing, and maybe I shouldn't be so critical because of where we are right now. And I've been told on Twitter or X, whatever, when I voice my concerns that like, hey man, like we're nowhere near where we need to be, and Ugarte is a step in the right direction. And that is true. It is a step in the right direction. Maybe I should be okay with that. I just was hoping that we'd start building for a team to challenge 3 years from now. And I'm not sure if Ugarte is going to be that. Maybe he'll be the perfect bench player 3 or 4 years from now when we actually get a defensive midfielder that can do a little bit more with the ball, not just without the ball. But anyway, I'm getting a little sidelined here, or sidetracked. The whole story here, or the whole reason why I'm making this video, is to talk a little bit about INEOS and INEOS ball and also INEOS business, like how they've proven that they do their business. Now, if we just go back a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, everybody watching this was hearing about INEOS has sat down with this manager, then that manager. They've talked to Tuchel, they talked to McKenna, they even looked at De Zerbi, they looked at Southgate, they looked at Potter before that. So this was like 6 weeks ago. They were talking about Southgate and Potter. And then it was Tuchel, McKenna, De Zerbi, Thomas Frank. Just a ton of managers, and Tuchel was the right one, though. Tuchel was the one we all thought, well, it was McKenna for like 2 days, and then we all thought we were going to bring in Tuchel. Not a lot of people were talking about keeping Erik ten Hag, except for the ones who wanted ten Hag in, but the ones who were reporting on INEOS were speaking as if they're going to make a change in the manager department, and then out of nowhere, they were pretty much all wrong. They all used to say, well, there's a possibility to keep Erik ten Hag, but let's be real. Those noises were a lot less than the noises of they're gonna let him go, and his replacement's probably gonna be Tuchel. For a while, it was McKenna, and they were all wrong. INEOS ended up keeping Erik ten Hag. We heard noises that INEOS wanted to bring in an English assistant coach for him, and now we're hearing Ruud van Nistelrooy and Haka from Go Ahead Eagles. Again, not exact. The Go Ahead Eagles one came out of nowhere, didn't it? We didn't see that coming. A lot of things INEOS decide to do are out of left field or surprises, things we don't see coming, and things we all like. I liked it. When they got Omar Barada, even before that, when they got Omar Barada, nobody saw it coming, and we all like it. So I'm starting to turn a new page here. I'm starting to think that the reason why I get upset with INEOS or think of them as not great owners, or my concerns with them as owners come from all these leaks that end up not even being what they decide to do. INEOS have shown that they want to explore all avenues. They like to know all the data before they make a decision. So with that said, the Ugarte thing sounds like INEOS is talking to PSG about Ugarte, and that INEOS is talking to his management about Ugarte, and his management happens to be the same firm that what's his name, our good friend, I'll put his picture up because I can't remember his name right now, our good friend Mendes works for us, so we're always in contact with Mendes. So obviously we're talking to his management. We may or may not get Ugarte, I'm not sure. The only one we've officially made a bid for, at least that we've heard of, is Branthwaite. And that's probably because they needed to put a bid in before June 30th to see if Everton will bite for their own PSR issues. Other than that, we don't really know who we're getting. We might not even get Joshua Zirkzee. Maybe they're just exploring that. Although I feel on that one there's a good chance we're getting Joshua Zirkzee, because we're not hearing anything about any other backup striker or striker that we're going after. And also Zirkzee just kind of fits the bill. He's different than Højlund. He's Dutch. And he looks like a pretty good steal for that price. Also, his price is right. So I feel like Zirkzee is actually one that we are actually interested in, and the decision would be to move forward with Zirkzee. But we're still exploring if the Ugarte deal is something we want to do. There's no solid concrete like, oh yeah, we're going after Ugarte, and we're now exploring the Matthijs de Ligt deal, and if that's something we'd want to do. Now, I think we're probably not going to go through with that. I don't know. I'm not saying De Ligt is a bad player. De Ligt is a good player, but when I first heard the rumors, my first thought was, isn't he injury prone? And isn't that like the last thing Manchester United need is a player who's injury prone? So I looked it up, and Transfer Market has this. And in this, it says he had a knee ligament tear just this last season. You don't want to bring in somebody who just had a knee ligament tear just this last season. You don't even know how well he's going to recover for that, because he also had a knee ligament issue a couple of months after that, right? At least that's what I think Transfer Market says, but I'll have it on the screen for you to look at. And it might not be completely accurate, this information. It's just a website. I don't know how great they are with their data, but I do remember him having an injury just this last season, and it happens to be a serious one if it's an actual ligament tear. So I'm hoping that they look into that and they realize and come to their senses that, hey, his wages are high. He's not going to be he's not like a 20 million pound player. This is someone they're going to have to pay 35 million for. And there's a chance his knee ligament tear or whatever isn't healed right, and he just doesn't have the same speed that he used to have, and he's just not the same player. So also, I would say that, hey, who knows? If he passes his medical, maybe he's good to go. But then again, do you trust our doctors? Because did we bring our new physios in? Or do we have our new guys in who do these things? I don't know if that's happened yet. So if we sign him and he comes in for a medical, and we have our old crew who basically think everything is hunky-dory. They don't know what the hell they're doing. You just can't take a risk and spend that kind of money for a guy. Now, look, I might be wrong, completely wrong. And if they decide to go with him, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt in that they've done all their homework. They've collected all the data they needed to collect, and that they made a decision based on the fact that his knee ligament's fine and he's going to be okay. That's the benefit of the doubt I'm going to give them. But then 3 months into the season, if this guy pulls up with a knee problem and he can't play for a month or two, then it's on INEOS. This isn't going to be on Ten Hag. This is going to be on INEOS. This is them now. But again, I am starting to turn a new leaf. I am starting to trust them. And it's weird for me because I didn't trust. If you watch my videos from 2-3 months ago, from the very first video I ever made on this channel, you know that I was always skeptical about INEOS. I was always like, oh, these guys are only here to make money. And I still believe that. I still believe their main goal is to turn a profit and show the Glazers what they could be doing if they're in charge. Because I believe they have a 2-year time scale to show the Glazers that they're the right people to be in charge. Because after 2 years, the Glazers have the option to sell and also force them to sell their shares. So again, that was in the contract. If you don't know about it, I talked about it months ago, but it's out there in the news. If you look it up and you look at all the little leaks that we had about that contract, we don't know everything about the contract, but they are a publicly traded company, so some of these things have to be reported. And one of them is that there's a stipulation in the contract that after 2 years, the Glazers can force INEOS to sell their shares if the Glazers find a buyer who's willing to pay a certain amount. So I think that INEOS's main charge is to show profits in 2 years to keep the Glazers happy, to make sure that they don't force INEOS out, basically, or force them to sell. Now, INEOS is more than welcome to buy the whole thing themselves after 2 years for that set amount. And that's what I think INEOS might even want to do. Who knows? That's not the point. Today's discussion is, what are we doing in this summer transfer window, how I feel about it, and where we're going. My advice to you guys is don't listen or believe. Well, it's not about believe, because you can go ahead and believe that we did contact Matthijs de Ligt's agents and we are talking to Bayern Munich about figuring out what kind of price they want. But that doesn't mean we're going to pull the trigger and buy the guy. That's just another one of those examples, I believe, of INEOS doing all their data collecting. This is just another example of the INEOS way. From now on, this is what you're going to find out, is these people want all the information they can possibly gather before making a decision. So they're still working on the Todibo deal through lawyers to try and, go to the Court of Arbitration and overturn UEFA's rule. They're still somewhat in conversation with Everton over Branthwaite. They will take their time, just like they did with their manager. They will take their time, but I do believe the easy deals are going to get done quickly. Like the Xerxes deal will be done by the end of next week. Or, sorry, he's at the Euros, so right after Euros is done. But you will hear that it's pretty much a done deal and Xerxes chosen to come to Manchester United if that's what he chooses to do. If that's what he chooses to do, I think you'll hear about it by end of next week. The whole deal won't be done until the Euros are over and he can travel and do the medical and sign the paperwork and all that. But everything else that may be difficult, like the Branthwaite deal and stuff like that with Everton, I think is going to take a long time. And that's not so different from the way Manchester United has always done things. But also I believe that this is taking a long time because INEOS is a little bit different. INEOS wants to gather information and interview people and talk to people and figure out, like, in 10 different ways if this can go wrong. And if it does go wrong, what is the penalty? What is it going to cost us if something goes wrong? What is it going to cost us if De Ligt's knee is not great? I think they will think about that. I'm at least going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they will think about these things and they will make better decisions. Now, hopefully, all this thinking and talking and information gathering doesn't mean that we end up only signing 2 or 3 players because it takes them too long to make a decision. I hope that's not the case, but I also am going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're working on multiple conversations and multiple deals at the same time, which did not seem like something Manchester United was capable of doing in the past. It's obvious that they're working on multiple things at the same time. They've got a lawyer working on Todibo right now while they're talking to Matthijs de Ligt's management, while they also are talking to Everton about Branthwaite, while they're discussing things with Bologna over Xerxes. So There are multiple things happening at the same time. That's never happened before. And let's not forget the sales. Like, we're still working on Mason Greenwood stuff, and we're still working on some outgoings too. So these guys are capable of working on multiple things at the same time. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's hang on for another, I would say, actually, because the Saudi window doesn't open till July 14th, and that might change some things in our midfield if they happen to take Casemiro, depending on what they're willing to pay for Casemiro. I was going to say let's give them 2 weeks to see where they, where the chips fall, but that's not going to be enough because July 14th is a Saudi window. So we're going to have to give them till the end of July. And I hate saying that. I hate saying that because I want most of our business done before the tour and only have like one more piece of business to do when the season starts. But I think maybe only half our business is going to be done before the tour or during the tour. And then we're going to have to do the other half of our business in August, maybe, because of the Saudi window and depending on what they're going to do with the likes of Casemiro. All right, guys. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the Marcus Rashford to PSG thing. I'm not sure about that. Like, I don't know if that's even a possibility, so I'm not even going to entertain that thought in my head. What do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. I don't want to think about it because I don't want to decide I want him gone or I want him to stay and then have the opposite happen. And I just don't want to. There's enough things to piss me off. I don't need any more things to piss me off, basically. So I'm not going to really think about that so much. Now, another piece of news that I just saw, and again, this is not a reliable source, but it did make me excited, is left back, and the guy we're talking about is the left back from Girona, Miguel Gutierrez. This guy is a class act. This is a very good left back. Now, I've been preaching for a left back, and I get comments and X messages or whatever from people who watch our videos and telling me that, well, what about Harry Amos and Luke Shaw will be back to fitness? Yeah, maybe, or maybe not. Harry Amos might not be good enough yet. Might be too young, might be too not ready for the Premier League, let's say, and needs a loan out. I'm not willing to gamble with another season without a left back. And Luke Shaw, again, maybe, maybe not. He returns. And no one knows what's going on with Terrell Malacia and what injury he had. Maybe, maybe not. He's able to play a whole season next season. The best thing we can do is bring in a left back. And Miguel Gutierrez is actually a top, awesome left back to bring in. So we should be looking at that deal. We should be trying to make that deal. And I'm super excited to read something like this or see something like this come out of nowhere, even though the source isn't exactly reliable. And I'm hoping that tomorrow, the next day, or the following week, we hear from something from a Fabrizio Romano or David Ornstein. I have a feeling we'll be looking at left back, but maybe we're waiting for outgoings before we do that business. Thank you so much for joining me again. That's it for today's short video. If you are still here, please drop a like down below. It's the best way you can support me if you do like my content. I'm trying to get to 50 likes on one video, yet to do that. I haven't had a video reach 50 likes, so please drop a like. Let's see if we can get to 50. Stay tuned. I'll make a video sometime next week when some new things start happening. I am going to wait till July, probably 4th or 5th. Let July kind of go on a couple of days in the new fiscal year for football. Let's see what goes on. Let's see if INEOS starts to leak more things out or if they start to get serious about which center back they're actually going to sign. Thanks, guys. See you next time.